If your dog walks away from you, especially in moments where you expect them to stay close, it can feel confusing. But that small behavior is often more meaningful than it looks. Most people assume their dog is distracted or simply uninterested. But in many cases, something else is happening beneath the surface. Dogs don't just move randomly in social situations. Their positioning and movement often reflect how they are processing what's happening around them. And when a behavior repeats in similar situations, it starts to form a pattern. That pattern is where meaning begins. Walking away is one of those behaviors. It appears simple, but it carries information. Your dog is not just leaving the space. They are responding to something they've interpreted. This response can be subtle. It doesn't always look dramatic or emotional. But it is often consistent. And consistency is what makes it important. Most dogs don't walk away without a reason, even if that reason is not obvious to you. Because dogs are constantly evaluating situations, not just reacting, but assessing. They look at your movement, your tone, and your timing. Then they decide how to respond. Walking away is one of those responses. It is not always about avoidance. Sometimes it is about reducing pressure. Other times it is about uncertainty. And in some cases, it is simply a shift in attention. But that shift still has a cause. The key is not the movement itself. It is the context in which it happens. When you start paying attention to that context, the behavior becomes clearer. Because your dog is not just leaving randomly. They are reacting to something specific. That reaction may be small, but it is still meaningful. And once you recognize that, you start to see patterns more clearly. Because this behavior rarely happens in isolation. It connects to other moments. And those moments begin to form a bigger picture. At first, this behavior can feel inconsistent. One moment your dog is close, and the next they walk away. But when you look more closely, there is usually a trigger. Something changes just before they move. It could be your tone shifting slightly, or your movement becoming less predictable. Dogs are sensitive to small changes, even ones you don't notice yourself. When something feels different, they respond. And sometimes that response is distance. Distance does not always mean rejection. It can mean adjustment. Your dog may be creating space to process what just changed. Not to disconnect, but to understand. This is especially common in moments of uncertainty. When your behavior does not match what they expect. Expectation plays a big role here. Dogs rely on patterns to feel stable. When a pattern changes, even slightly, they notice. And they respond accordingly. Walking away can be one of those responses. It creates a small buffer. That buffer gives them time to observe, to reassess the situation. And once they understand it again, they may return. This is why the behavior often feels temporary, because it is tied to a moment. But even temporary behaviors carry meaning, especially when they repeat. And when they repeat, they reveal how your dog is interpreting you. Not all walking away means the same thing. Context always matters. A dog walking away during play is different from a dog walking away during interaction. The intention behind the movement changes with the situation. This is where most people misread the behavior. They focus on the action, not the context. But dogs communicate through combinations. Movement plus timing plus environment. When those align, the behavior becomes clearer. Your dog is not just reacting randomly. They are expressing something about the moment. That expression may be subtle, but it is still structured. Dogs don't need dramatic signals to communicate. They rely on consistency instead. And walking away can become part of that communication system. Especially if it happens in similar situations. Because repetition builds meaning. And meaning builds understanding. Once you see that, the behavior stops feeling confusing. It starts to feel predictable. And when something becomes predictable, it becomes easier to interpret. What makes this behavior important is not how it looks once. It is how it appears over time. Patterns are what give behavior meaning, not isolated moments. When your dog walks away in similar situations, that pattern becomes clear. And once it is clear, you can begin to understand it. Most people miss this because they focus on individual moments. But dogs don't communicate in isolated moments. They communicate in patterns. This is why small behaviors matter. Because they repeat. And repetition creates clarity. When your dog repeats a behavior, they are reinforcing a signal. Not intentionally in a human sense, but consistently in a behavioral sense. And consistency is what makes something meaningful. Over time, this becomes part of how your dog interacts with you. Not just a reaction, but a pattern. And once it becomes a pattern, it becomes easier to read. Because your dog is not just leaving. They are responding to something specific. Over time, this is where the behavior becomes easier to recognize. It stops feeling random and starts feeling familiar. You begin to notice when it happens and what happens just before it. That awareness changes how you see the behavior. It becomes something you can anticipate. And anticipation is where understanding begins. Your dog is not just reacting to you in the moment. They are responding to a pattern they have learned. That pattern includes your behavior, your timing, and your consistency. When those elements feel stable, your dog stays engaged. When they shift, your dog adjusts. Walking away is one of those adjustments. It reflects a change in how your dog is processing the moment. And once you understand that, the behavior becomes less confusing. It becomes part of a larger system. A system your dog uses to interpret the world around them. And that system is built over time. Through repeated interactions. Which means small behaviors like this carry more meaning than they appear to. Because they are not isolated. They are part of how your dog understands you. And once you see that, the behavior changes from something random to something structured.